Does any member wish to give a notice of a motion? Notice of motions? Nothing. Motions without notices? Okay, Honorable Van Lingen, as I pick up the...
The first one, I'm sorry.
And now we have passed it.
Yeah.
In any case, you will be the only one. Can you give a notice?
Thank you, Chairperson. Honorable Chairperson, let me just make space here for the gentleman. On behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I hereby wish to move a notice of a motion that at the next sitting of this House, we debate the constitutional mandate of Parliament and the decorum of this House and functions of the presiding officers. This comes in the light of the remarks made by the NCOP chairperson in the media this past weekend in terms of the Parliament being interfered with by the judiciary and undermined by the executive. We note that it is imperative that Parliament obeys and applies the very laws it makes and is supposed to implement. As ruled by the courts, it is illegal for the chairperson, for instance, to bring in security forces into Parliament to retain order, and that this House respects the rule of law and the independence of the judiciary, and that the biased action of the governing party leave opposition parties no choice but to sometimes and very often have to call on the judiciary to enforce the law. The Democratic Alliance is currently litigating 16 matters in court against the ANC at the cost of our own party funds and not the taxpayers, to keep the President, the SABC, the provincial and local government, in other words, all spheres of government, from contravening the rules, our rules here in Parliament, and also the Constitution. I so move.
What is the point of order?
Chairperson, I think this is a motion in my reading of it, and therefore I would request, Chair, that you don't rule now, but go back and come back to the House whether this motion is a motion can sustain. In my view, this is a motion that is supposed to be substantial and be put as a motion and not as a notice of a motion, Chair.
In terms of the order of proceedings, it is only correct that in terms of the rules that I called for notices of motions, and the member stood up to read the notice of a motion, which will then be printed. The rules does allow for an amendment if there is a need, which will then can only happen once a member stands up to amend the motion as presented. For now, it will read as a notice of a motion. I saw members waking up a little bit late. Are we on notices of motions? Or motions without notices? Notice of a... Okay, I do have a list here. Yes, you may proceed.
I thank you, Chair. Chairperson, I hereby move an amendment to the notice of a motion that the House debate the constitutional mandate of this, of the constitutional mandate of the Council, that this is governed by the Constitution, and that there is a committee on constitutional review that deals with matters of review of mandates. Secondly, that the Rules Committee, the Rules Committee has made a decision on the review of rules, and the committee was subsequently appointed, and therefore the governing party cannot be implicated in terms of its violation and disrespect of Constitution unless a substantive motive is put and there is proof of that, except allegations that are put forward. That's my amendment in terms of the the notice of a motion that was given, Chairperson.
Is there any objection to the motion? In the light of an objection, therefore, the motion shall read as a notice. Honorable Mikalakis?
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Chairperson. Honourable Deputy Chairperson, on behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I hereby wish to move without notice that Council notes that the Free State Provincial Legislature failed in its constitutional mandate to refer the Section 76 Financial and Fiscal Commission's Amendment Bill for deliberation to the Portfolio Committee on Finance, resulting in the province being unable to propose possible amendments to establish a negotiating mandate in terms of Rule 194. That the legislature failed to adverse an invitation for public comment, resulting in a flawed public participation process on this bill. Also notes the ANC's predictable, willful agenda to undermine the functioning of the legislature and the Constitution, and finally strongly condemns the failure to fulfill their duties by all representatives involved, most notably the office of the Chief Whip of the legislature. The ANC's failure to ensure the proper functioning of the legislature and the fulfillment of their mandate is yet again letting down the people of the Free State. I so move.
Is there any objection to the motion? In the light of an objection, therefore, the notice shall read as a notice. Honorable Mohai. Oh, on my note here it says Mohapi.
Thank you, Chair. Chairperson, I hereby move on behalf of the ANC without notice that the Council knows with concern that 7 awaiting trial prisoners overpowered police officers and escaped from the Lenasia Magistrate Court on Monday afternoon after having appeared in court. Also knows that these prisoners include Brandon Paul, Johnson Leroy, Romeo Biekes, Luvers Virasmi, Dumisane Selepe, Tabiso Sipilwane, and Mpora Mutswane. Further knows that the prisoners overpowered police officers working at the court cells and broke the main door to make their escape. They are on different charges ranging from robbery with aggravating circumstances, housebreaking, and theft. Therefore, call on the responsible law enforcement agencies to trace and apprehend them and do an investigation on the circumstances of their escape. I so move.
Is there any objection to the motion? Therefore, the motion is agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Makue.
Thank you, Deputy Chairperson. On behalf of the ANC, I hereby move without notice that the Council notes that the Poverty Alleviation Job Opportunities Initiative by the Gauteng Provincial Government has surpassed all expectations, having already created 51,385 job opportunities against the targeted 48,377 job opportunities. Further notes that the municipalities in the province have performed equally well by creating 112,047 job opportunities, exceeding the target of 63,670. Also notes that vulnerable groups, military veterans, and women participate in business opportunities created by the provincial government through cooperatives and small, middle, and medium enterprises. Therefore, congratulate the government of Gauteng in exceeding their targets in job-creating opportunities. I so move.
Thank you very much. Is there any objection to the motion? In the light of an objection, therefore, the motion shall read as a notice. Honorable Masango.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honorable Deputy Chairperson, on behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I wish to move a motion without notice that Council notes with grave concern the recent murder of 15-year-old Elna Jafta, whose body was found wrapped in a blanket under a bed in Zwelisha informal settlement. That this is a third senseless incident reported in which violence is meted out against young women in Bredasdorp after Anine Boyson and Kate Williams. that these acts of heinous crimes against women and children take place as the country marks the beginning of National Child Protection Week, that we call on police, community structures, and other stakeholders to work together to bring this scourge to an end and restore children's safety in Bedastop, and that we convey our sincere and deep condolences to Elna's family and loved ones on her passing, and may her young soul rest in eternal peace. I so move.
Any objection to the motion? Therefore, the motion is agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Julius.
I like the way you say my name, Chair. Julius. Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chair. On behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I wish to move a motion without notice that Council notes that the Gauteng Provincial Health Department admitted to having a shortage of 760 ambulances to date in order to meet the national norm of 1 ambulance for every 10,000 people. That this situation is putting the lives of all residents at a great risk, as evidenced by Mr. Joseph Marx's death, died one day after an ambulance was allegedly not available to transport him to Chris Hani Baragwana Academic Hospital. That the Mpumalanga Provincial Health Department has a shortage of 140 ambulances. That this is yet another showcase of an uncaring ANC government, and call for the immediate intervention as emergency services cannot be compromised. I so move.
Is there any objection to the motion? Therefore, the motion shall be treated as a notice. Honorable Kaila.
I move on behalf of the United Democratic Movement that the House notes that a group of 36 villagers from Libodi in the Eastern Cape, led by a 20-year-old young woman, Nosiko Bani, took advantage of training offered by a construction company contracted by South African National Road Agency, and were trained in bricklaying, carpentry, and
Can
plastering.
you just speak to the mic, Honorable Kaila?
Further notes that this group of villagers took their training into practice and built a complete classroom for the village school called Zwelake Junior Secondary School. Acknowledge that this program has changed the lives of unskilled, unemployed villagers into skilled bricklayers and carpenters. Commends this group of young villagers for their great contribution to the community in their life in general. Calls on all service providers contracted by the government to plow back to the community through such initiatives. I so move.
Thank you very much. Is there any objection to the motion? Therefore, the motion is agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Singh.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chair. I hereby move without notice that this Council notes with deepest sympathy that Ghana experienced a disaster following explosion at a petrol station in the country capital, Accra, on Wednesday night, which killed at least 200 people. Further notes that the aftermath of this catastrophic explosion and the torrential rains has overwhelmed and devastated the people of Ghana. Also notes the Department of International Relations, through the South African High Commissioner in Accra, was in contact with authorities in Ghana on a standby to assist and identify if there was any South Africans involved. Therefore, we send our deepest condolences to the government of Ghana and to everyone affected, particularly to the families and friends of those killed and injured in this unprecedented explosion in a petrol station. I so move.
Any objection to the motion? Therefore, the motion is agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Mhlanga. You have your hand up. Okay. Honorable Sak.
Honorable Chairperson, thank you for the opportunity. On behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I hereby wish to move a motion without notice that this Council notes that the Democratic Alliance has learned that only 9 out of 21 municipal managers, that is 43% in Mpumalanga, comply with the minimum competency levels as set out by the National Treasury's municipal regulations. That more than half of the province's municipal managers are technically unqualified to serve, as is shown by Emma Latleni's acting municipal manager Theo van Vieren, who has also failed to comply with the minimum requirements and has spent 20 million rand of ratepayers' funds on bodyguards for politicians alone. That these facts, Honorable Chairperson, these facts are according to written responses to questions posed by the DA to the Department of Kochta. That poor service delivery is a direct result of the ANC government's insistence on appointing officials as a reward for political loyalty and not according to their skills. That earlier this year, National Treasury announced that non-compliant officials will be removed by 30th September 2015, and that the Democratic Alliance, be sure, will monitor this and insist on fully qualified municipal managers for the benefit of our fellow South Africans. I so move. Thank you.
Is there any objection to the motion? In the light of an objection, therefore, the motion shall read as a notice of a motion. Honorable Mtimunye.
Honorable Deputy Chair, in the name of the People's Movement, the ANC, I hereby move without notice that Council notes that South Africa and the United States have signed an agreement paving the way for scrapping of anti-dumping duties on U.S. poultry imports and securing South Africa's participation in African Growth and Opportunity Act, famously known as AGOA. Further notes that the agreement was reached following a two-day meeting in Paris between the South African Poultry Association, its U.S. counterpart, the U.S. Poultry and Egg Export Council. Also notes that the participation of South Africa in AGOA in the next 10 years guarantees benefits of 31.4 billion rands and thousands of jobs. Therefore, congratulate the South African Poultry Association and the Department of Trade and Industry on this important agreement. I so move.
Thank you very much. Is there any objection to the motion? Is there any objection? Okay. In the absence of any objection, then the motion shall be agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable members, you'll have to bear with me. We are already in the 20th minute of motions. I'll take extra 3 hands. If it so happens that I don't pick you up, please bear with me. You may come in, Honorable Member, and followed by Honorable Kaula, and then Honorable Dikhala, I think, will be the last.
Honorable Chair, on behalf of the African National Congress, I want to move a motion that on the 4th of June 2015, by-elections took place in Ward 10, Mokaka, in the Free State, and the ANC won 89%, COPE had 12.4%, and the new councillor is Paul Chakani, and this attests to the fact that the ANC and the people are together. Our people still have confidence on the ANC. And we want to recommit to serve the people.
Is there any objection to the motion? In the light of an objection, therefore the motion shall read as a notice of a motion. Honorable Kaula.
Ngiyathokoza sihlalo hloniphekile egameni leqembu inkatha yenkululeko ngiphakamisa ukuba lendlu ehloniphekileyo izimbandakanye ukuchoma uphaphe logwalagwala ingqalabutho yomfundisi webandla i-United Congregational Church of Southern Africa, UCCSA, ubaba umfundisi BK Dludla. Umfundisi uDludla wenzelwe umcimbi ibandla liholayo i-UCCSA yaku-B3 Street eThekwini ngoMgqibelo zingama-30 kuMeyi ngonyaka ka-2015. Ibandla belimbonga ngokuqeda iminyaka engama-60 engumfundisi. Kanti yena ubaba uDludla useneminyaka engama-89 yokuphila kwakhe. Isikhulumi sosuku kule nkonzo bekungumntwana wakwaPhindangene inkosi Buthelezi, undunankulu womdabu wesizwe sakwaZulu. Kanti kubuye kwenanela nenkulumo kaMfundisi Njabulo Makhanya, webandla i-UCCSA e-Adams ongumoderator we-UCCSA. Phela i-UCC yiyo eyakha isikole esidumile i-Adams College okwafunda kuyo izingqalabutho ezifana nomongameli Robert Mugabe, Mnumzane Joshua Nkomo, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, Prince MG Buthelezi nabanye abaholi abaningi. Egameni le-National Council of Provinces ePhalamende laseNingizimu Afrika sithi cebisa ume njalo nje. Ngiyathokoza.
Any objection to the motion? In the absence of any, then the motion shall be agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Dikhan.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chair. On behalf of the ANC, I hereby move without notice that the Council knows with appreciation the announcement of another 13 preferred bidders for wind and solar photovoltaic projects by the Minister of Energy, Honorable Tina Jumat Peterson. Further knows that the private sector investment in renewable energy generation will reach 193 billion rands following this announcement. Also that South Africa's renewable energy program is the fastest growing in the world and has seen large investment flow into the country while prices of energy production have fallen. Therefore, congratulate the Department of Energy in their successful wind and solar energy program. I so move.
Any objection to the motion? In the light of there being no objection, therefore the motion shall be agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. We shall now come to the motion by the acting
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chair. I move that the first order on the order paper be deferred to a later date. I so move.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, I shall now put the question, and the question is that the motion be agreed to. But before I do that, I shall allow provinces an opportunity to make a declaration of vote if they so. Is there any province that wishes to make a declaration of vote? In the absence of any, we shall then proceed with the voting. Eastern Cape.
The Eastern Cape supports.
Free State.
Free State approves.
Gauteng.
Gauteng agrees, Chair.
KwaZulu-Natal.
KwaZulu-Natal vumelana nayo sihla.
Limpopo.
Limpopo iyayithega mdulesitulo.
Mpumalanga.
Siyavuka thina eMpumalanga sihla.
Northern Cape. Northern Cape. I thought you have delegated Makhosi to do that. Okay, Northwest.
Northwest agrees.
Western Cape. Western Cape?
Agree.
All 9 provinces voted in favor of the motion. Therefore, the motion shall be agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Secretary will then read second and first and second and third orders of the day.
Policy debate on budget vote number 14, basic education, and policy debate on budget vote number 15, higher education and training.
I take the opportunity to welcome the Deputy Minister and in so doing invite you to introduce.
Honorable Deputy Chairperson, Honorable MEC for Education of the Western Cape, Honorable members and stakeholders in education who are seated in the gallery. We convene at a time when we are celebrating the 60th anniversary of the Freedom Charter, a document that culminated as a result of the endeavors of more than 50,000 volunteers who straddle the length and breadth of the country to determine what is it that they would like to have in a constitution. A document which was adopted on the 26th of June, and a document which had inspired us when we drafted our constitution, which is regarded as one of the most progressive and liberal constitutions in the world. It is time for us, Honorable Deputy Chairperson, to reflect on how we have progressed with regard to this document, which eloquently proclaims that South Africa belongs to all who live in it, black and white, and certainly emphasizes the importance of education, recognizing that the doors of learning and culture shall be opened. What we have to reflect on is whether indeed we have paid attention to the demands within the Freedom Charter, which are indeed enshrined in our Constitution, where our Constitution has made education an unqualified human right. It is quite interesting, Honorable Deputy Chairperson, that the Honorable Minister of Higher Education and Training and I had the privilege of representing our country at the World Education Forum at Incheon, South Korea, quite recently, where there were more than 120 ministers present and a plenary of more than 3,000 people. As South Africans, we were able to contribute to the declaration, and our contribution was indeed largely and broadly accepted by the drafters. We were able to influence the drafters in accepting that an element of tolerance is critical and necessary as we seek social cohesion and a global education system. We were also able to convince them that their limited expression of diversity through culture was not sufficient and that they should incorporate the element of racial integration as well as religious and linguistic. This inspiration was drawn from our own constitution and the struggle of our people to achieve equality and freedom, and in a large measure has influenced us in trying or endeavoring to shape the agenda for the world. The Freedom Charter speaks eloquently of education, and it says amongst the aims of education is that education shall be to teach the youth to love their culture, to honor human brotherhood, liberty and peace. These are the words of the Freedom Charter some 60 years ago, and today we can celebrate the fact that our sisters and our brothers from the continent, heads of states, are assembling here in South Africa on our shores to celebrate and indeed to assemble under the theme of the year of women empowerment and development towards Africa's Agenda 2063. What this says to us that when we, in our founding provisions, created a society or sought to create a society and aspired to create a society that was non-racial, non-sexist, democratic and prosperous, we were indeed on the right track. As a system of education, we always believe and argue that our education is based on the ability to provide knowledge, skills, and values. And values indeed form an integral part of our Constitution, and if we look and consider the declaration of the Incheon Conference, it indeed speaks about a new vision for 2015-2030 under the banner, ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. I'm indeed happy that the Honorable Minister of Higher Education and Learning is present out here, and I'm sure he would be able to share the views or certainly the vision and mission of the Department of Higher Education and Training in terms of lifelong learning in all its facets. Honorable Deputy Chairperson, I would like to approach this debate somewhat differently. We are in the National Council of Provinces, and it is really about the extent to which provinces are able to contribute to the quality of the lives of our people and the provision of quality education. And what we can celebrate as a sector and as a Department of Basic Education is that we work collaboratively and harmoniously as a Department of Basic Education, and together we are indeed able to do more. Our country can celebrate many things in terms of this particular sector. We can say that we are able to feed more than 9.7 million children every day in our schools, and indeed this occurs across the provinces. But what we can share with you that there is more than one model in terms of provision of food. And you have in the Eastern Cape, for example, a wonderful illustration of how decentralization and community empowerment has contributed very meaningfully and in a sustained way to the provision of quality food. what the Eastern Cape had done, and noting that the Eastern Cape was indeed under administration, and one of the reasons for the intervention in terms of Section 101B was that they were unable, amongst other things, to deliver nutrition. But today we can celebrate the fact that the Eastern Cape, through its model of decentralization, has been able to empower its women in rural villages, has been able to develop food gardens, has been able to teach those that are preparing food the essentials of hygiene and good nutrition, and has been able to deliver quality food to the learners. And I think it's something that we have to celebrate, and it's a model that we have to look at closely. The Northwest, the Free State, are also involved in a similar decentralized model. Now, what we celebrate is the fact, and certainly we are reminded from time to time about certain inefficiencies and certain challenges in the nutrition scheme, such as we had in Limpopo. But we tend to forget, as we look at the challenges and difficulties within a particular province or within a particular district, about the scale of delivery to more than 9.7 million people. And that is indeed something that is substantive, something that is huge, and something that we can celebrate. We've learned from the provinces that there are different modalities of delivery also in terms of textbooks. So, for example, we are all quite ashamed about the inefficiencies within Limpopo that had failed to deliver textbooks timeously. But we can celebrate the fact that amongst the 9 provinces, the province that was able to deliver textbooks at the most cost-effective way has been Limpopo, followed by Eastern Cape, the 2 provinces that were under administration. So certainly what we can do is convert disaster into triumph and ensure that as we learn from our difficult lessons of the past, we can build a better future for all of us. What is interesting about this exercise is provinces share ideas and practices amongst each other and are better able to do better. My colleague from the Western Cape has a particular model in terms of multi-grade teaching, which we do believe excels amongst all the provinces. And we've taken the best practice here, utilized ICT, and ensured that recognizing that multi-grade schools is a phenomenon that we cannot eliminate and eradicate within a short space of time. We should use the best possible model so that the educator, with the enabling tools of ICT, is better able to do his or her job. And this has indeed been the success of the story. When we look at the results and we share and celebrate the fact that we've consistently improved our results, although there was a marginal dip last year as a result of the fact that it was for the first time that the matriculants wrote the National Curriculum Assessment and Policy Statement. But be that as it may, what we are seeing is quite phenomenal. Previously, those who had succeeded and those who had optimal performances was either Gauteng or the Western Cape. Last year it was Gauteng, and marginally behind was the Northwest, followed by Free State and the Western Cape. What this says to us in the context of a country that is a unitary state, where provinces basically begin to work with each other and share best practices, that even the deep rural provinces have an opportunity to excel. So, in the past 2 years, the Eastern Cape, which was under administration, which had never performed above 60%, was able to go beyond 60% and has now achieved 65%. We can celebrate the fact that from the 9 provinces, 4 of the provinces have achieved more than 80% in terms of the National Senior Certificate Examination, and another 4 provinces between 70 and 80%. So that means a significant improvement has occurred in terms of the quality of education across the country. And indeed, the Eastern Cape must do better. We do believe that the minimum threshold in terms of performance and achievement should be 75%, and indeed, very soon we would like it to be nothing less than 80%. Whereas in the past, we would say that no, we would be very fortunate if at least 1 out of 5 learners went to universities. We are now, we can say quite proudly that 1 out of 3 can go to university, 1 out of 3 can go to University of Technology, and at least 1 could go to an alternative college. That means in terms of the quality of education, there has been an improvement. But what is more significant, recognizing the importance of equity and the importance of providing access and opportunity to our people, is the fact that whereas in the past, distinctions was a phenomenon that only occurred amongst quintile 4 and 5 schools, we now have the quintiles 1, 2, and 3 schools contributing more distinctions than quintiles 4 and 5 schools. That is indeed a success story. But we tend to be distracted by those who say that we are not proceeding. We do something quite unique in South Africa, and again, this cannot occur unless all the provinces work together, unless they recognize together and in a uniform way that we do have challenges, and the challenges amongst others is in terms of literacy and numeracy. What South Africa does, and no other country does on the scale that we do, is we test each and every learner from grade 1 to grade 6 on his or her ability in terms of literacy and numeracy, and we do so on the basis of internationally benchmarked tests. And last year, for example, we had tested more than 7.6 million learners, and next year it will be increased to about 9 million because we're also going to stress the grade 7s, the grades 8s, and grades 8s. What this has indicated to us as a diagnostic tool is that there were certainly challenges, but we've seen quite significantly, and the empirical evidence is there, that the foundation phase is improving radically, that grades 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5 are improving year after year, that the Eastern Cape, which was previously at the bottom rung in terms of performance, now oscillates between level 4 and 5. Which means that if you pay particular attention to the foundations of learning, you can create a better learning environment, and indeed your learners can do better. I've always argued that poverty is a condition and should never be an excuse for poor performance. So if we go to the province of Limpopo, we would find in Bilwe High School that there's never any less than 200 matriculants, and that never produces less than 120 distinctions in mathematics and science. And its pass rate in mathematics and science is more than 120, and any moderate school in the former Model C, amongst the former Model C schools has superior infrastructure to those schools. The educators are African, the learners are African, and they are generally rural. And no learner is excluded from the school, but the condition is that she or he must be willing to spend extended hours and spend weekends and must do mathematics and science. That is a success story, but not far from there you have Dendroy, who's competing with Imbilwe. So the future is promising, provided there is a commitment to provide quality education and there's a resolve amongst our educators to do better. What we have argued is that we cannot only rely on institutions of higher learning to provide teacher resources, professional development. We've established 140 teacher resource centers, 65 of which are highly sophisticated and connected, and they provide all the facilities that a teacher could desire. They have an archive of ICT where they could basically have the curriculum content and all supporting material on ICT, and certainly are able to interact with schools in the environment. We are grateful for the support that we receive from Vodacom, from MTN, from UNISA, and very soon each one of these 140 teacher resource centers would be optimally functional. And already they are being used. They are used for English as a further additional language, and where educators are in a non-obtrusive way being able to assess the capacity in terms of content knowledge and are able to do a pre-test and a post-test. And the indications clearly reveal that this exercise here is not a fruitless exercise, and there is a significant improvement in the performance of educators, particularly with regard to content knowledge. And as we share this with you, we want to share with you that there are already 94 instruments that are almost ready for utilization by educators who would be able to assess their ability in each one of the subjects across the grades, particularly in respect of mathematics, science, and progressively and incrementally we hope to do so in each one of the subjects, because content knowledge as well as pedagogy is critical and necessary. We have moved forward, and in fact, if you were in Incheon in South Korea, they would have told you that we recognize the importance of ICT as a critical enabler for education. But ICT has to be linked to professional development, the competencies and capacity of an educator to be able to facilitate learning in a different environment. It is about problem-solving skills and a new pedagogy towards education. Group and collaborative learning becomes very important, and indeed our children must be in the 21st century. We are working with great speed, and indeed the front runners in terms of ICT are the Western Cape and Gauteng with regard to that particular exercise. But as we do so, we cannot forget the importance of our rural provinces and how important it is for us to bridge the digital divide. And it is our intention and our hope, and it's our resolute hope, that by the end of our term, every single school will be connected. What we can share with you that the entire curriculum content has been digitized. What we can share with you is that through a partnership with Mixit and UNICEF, we've created a platform in terms whereof you can have all past papers, all exemplars, the entire curriculum content, more than 200 readers receive to more than 600 devices, the most simple and the smartest cell phone, or an iPad or a desktop computer. This is the reality here. So as we speak to you in terms of the 21st century, it's not something that we wish for and aspire for. Digitization has already taken place, and indeed we are gearing for the time where we could say that there is connectivity, and therefore we've argued, and indeed our Honorable Minister of Higher Education and Training will engage with higher education to ensure that every educator, every teacher that passes through the institutions of higher learning has the appropriate ICT skills in order to succeed. Honorable Chairperson, we tend to forget how much we do. And as we argue at times about the non-delivery of books in certain schools, we can share with you that we deliver more than 55 million books to enhance literacy and numeracy to our children. And they are in 11 official languages, delivered free of charge to every child, black and white, quintile 1 to quintile 5 schools. We do so because we have an entrenched right to education, and indeed we recognize the fact that in order to promote literacy and numeracy, we've got to make sure that these resources are provided. I shared with my colleague from the Western Cape that just a week ago, I had the privilege of opening delivering one of the schools in the Doe? I think. The Dana, from the Dorings to the Dana, yes. That's it. We did one in the Dorings as well, and that's at the Dana. The Noon to the Dana, that's right. This school is worth more than 40 million rands, located in the most economically depressed area. It's one of the ASIDI projects, one of the 108 schools that we've been able to deliver. Just in the past 2 years or so, for the past 18 months, we are able to say that we are completing a state-of-the-art school each week, and indeed we will do so for the next 1.5 to 2 years, because we have to do so. But what we discovered as we visited the school, that notwithstanding the poverty surrounding this particular school and this wonderful, imposing state-of-the-art school with laboratory, library, ICT, even a dance room, our learners were ready for learning. We saw our workbooks being used in each one of the classrooms, and the learners were able to read these books with understanding, that the levels of achievement in terms of literacy and numeracy across the grades exceeded the national average. And this was amongst the poorest community in the West.
Yes, you round up, Honorable Member.
Now, and Honorable Chairperson, it is not a phenomenon of the Western Cape only. It is a phenomenon throughout the country. And we do believe that education is not about a competition between provinces and amongst provinces. It is about working collaboratively to achieve the best interests of our children. And indeed, if we look at our CD program, we will recognize that already we have delivered 13 state-of-the-art schools to the Western Cape, and 12 are under construction. This is indeed a huge contribution towards education. Honorable Chairperson, there is so much to say and such a good narrative in terms of education. I can only say that we can certainly say that we are bound and tied by the ropes of hope, and together we can look forward to a prosperous future, notwithstanding the challenges that we have to overcome and the legacy of a very divided past. I thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you very much. I also welcome the Minister for Higher Education and invite the Minister to introduce the debate.
Honorable Chairperson of the NCOP, Deputy Ministers Manana and Serti, Chairperson of the Select Committee, Honorable Zwane, Honorable members of the NCOP, the Director General and staff of the department and heads and executive of all our post-school organizations and institutions, honored guests, including my special guests, ladies and gentlemen and comrades. Chairperson, I have done something that I haven't done before. I hope you'll find that in order that due to time constraints, I'm going to be circulating a longer version of the speech that I've given here, which has got more details. And I'm only going to present a summary of what is there, so that members can actually be able to benefit from the detail that we are providing. The agenda for the transformation of our education system was shaped by decades of struggles, including the struggle of people's education for people's power. This agenda was translated into government policies by the ANC government as from 1994. On this, the 60th anniversary of the Freedom Charter, we can confidently say that much has been done to open the doors of learning and culture. For example, black and women students are now in the majority in our universities, and the National Student Financial Aid Scheme, NSFAS, has supported more than 1.5 million poor students, most of whom being the first graduates ever in the history of their families. However, Chair and honorable members will still have a long way to go, and transformation efforts must continue uncompromising. Also making headway insofar as mainstreaming the incorporation of people with disabilities, both students and staff. Disabled people have not been fairly treated in our country. We have to accept that. In December 2014, I appointed a ministerial committee to develop a strategic disability policy framework that will strengthen the implementation and monitoring of disability policies across the post-school education and training system. This financial year, I will also introduce the Higher Education Amendment Bill to Parliament, as well as amendments to the Skills Development Act. These amendments also aim to strike an appropriate balance between institutional autonomy and public accountability of universities. By the way, contrary to some myths, Chairperson and honorable members, there is no constitutional clause on institutional autonomy in our Constitution. Our Constitution only talks about academic freedom. Some of the members sometimes mislead people and say institutional autonomy is a constitutional imperative. It is not. That is why in our own white paper, we balance institutional autonomy with public accountability, that these are public institutions, our universities, that must be held accountable. And I also wish that the NCOP will also get into the habit of calling upon some of our universities to come and account about how they are using public money and how they are actually promoting inclusion rather than segregation. I don't think that it should be intimidated by the idea of institutional autonomy. They are public institutions. They must account to you. I also wish to say, Chairperson and honorable members, that based on our white paper, we are developing a new national plan for post-school education and training, which we are going to be finalizing by March 2017, which will then cover our roadmap to 2030. For the 2015 MTF, the budget of the department amounts to 41.8 billion rands for 2015-16, which is an increase of 2.8 billion on the 2014-15 allocation, excluding, of course, the direct charges that fund the SETAs and the National Skills Fund. On NSFAS, for the 2015-16 financial year, the total NSFAS budget amounts to 9.5 billion for the allocation of 205,000 university student loans and bursaries, and 200,000 TVET college bursaries, with the highest allocation going to Gauteng, a sign that most of our universities and colleges are concentrated there. And Donor allocations include not only funds from the Department of Basic Education in the form of Funza Lushaka, but also Department of Social Development, the SETAs, the National Skills Fund, but also funding for bursaries from the Eastern Cape and KwaZulu-Natal provincial governments. I also wish that other provinces could do the same as well, so that we increase the port that we have. And I do need to say, Chairperson, that whatever challenges we have on NSFAS, this is making a huge difference to poor students in our country. In fact, this is one of the most successful interventions by this ANC government. That is why our detractors, they will never mention the benefits out of NSFAS. Instead, they focus on problems and challenges, because the aim is to distract. NSFAS is one of the most important achievements by this government. That's our point of departure. Then we can talk about the challenges and the problems. But because there is a huge campaign to try and discredit NSFAS, its achievements is just ignored. We are committed to increasing access to universities, aiming to have 1.1 million students in 2019, so that we reach our target of 1.6 million university students by 2013. Chairperson and honorable members, lots of progress with the new universities. Salt Lake University in Kimberley did its second intake this year, and it's appointed a vice chancellor, permanent. Mpumalanga University, its second uptake, and it's appointed a vice chancellor. We have President launched the Sifako Makgato Health Sciences University, third university now under a democratic South Africa, with just over 5,000 students and incorporating Medunsa. And next year we are hoping to be opening the first medical school in a democratic South Africa at the University of Limpopo. We also committed to continue to produce quality teachers for the system. The number of new teacher graduates continue to grow, with 16,496 new teachers graduating in 2013. And by 2019, this figure will exceed 20,000, and therefore addressing the teacher shortage gap. We are also pleased to announce that with the support from a number of partners, we have established the first Center for African Languages Teaching that has been established as part of the University of Mpumalanga's Siyabuso campus. This center will promote research into teaching African languages, particularly the dominant languages of Mpumalanga province, is Ndebele and Siswati, hoping that we can then use this also across all other languages, especially African languages. We are indeed piloting community colleges as from next year, but already from the 1st of April this year, we've established 9 community education and training colleges, administrative centers across the 9 provinces, which allows for the absorption of our adult basic education and training centers into these new community colleges that we need. 2011 census tells us that there are 18 million South Africans who need adult education and training of one kind or the other. And for this reason, I will therefore be establishing a fully fledged branch on adult education and community college education in my department, headed by a Deputy Director General. We would like to thank the provincial education MSCs and their heads of departments for their cooperation, especially in the function shift of both TVET colleges and adult education centers. Technical and vocational education and training college enrollments have more than doubled over the past 5 years and will continue to increase, targeting 725,000 headcount enrollments this year. Nevertheless, we've grown this sector too fast. We're going to slow down a bit in order to focus on improvement of quality and training the right kind of lecturers. This academic year, for the first time, we have introduced an elective subject in the National Certificate Vocational Engineering programs around renewable energy technology in our colleges. Colleges in the Eastern Cape, KwaZulu-Natal, and Western Cape have been approached to participate in the development of maritime skills linked to the Operation Pakisa Oceans Economy, a presidentially led program to revive and develop the opportunities from our oceans. Last year, I committed to building new college campuses. Construction work at 3 of the 12 has started, and we are expecting the first delivery of a complete campus in Tabazimbi. We also continue to make steady progress in dealing with backlogs and certification. 496,000 certificates have been issued since 2012, with 103,000 still being processed. Nevertheless, to the students affected, we provide statements which is proof of that they have attended and also that they have passed in the meantime. And we're working very hard to address this problem. Also, we are very pleased, Chairperson and honorable members, that we are going to be expanding what we call higher certificates, basically targeting students who have not made it in matric to be able to bridge, to go to university or colleges, or some of them to actually get employment. A number of South African universities, most notably Free State, Cape Peninsula University of Technology, and the University of South Africa have heeded the call to develop and offer a range of higher certificates at NQL Level 5 in close cooperation with TVET colleges. On SETAs, I'm now of the view that the SETAs really should be focusing on training at the workplace, including facilitating partnerships between educational institutions and employers. And the department has developed an online registration system for students seeking work integrated opportunities. Allow me, Honorable Chair, to take this opportunity to thank my Deputy Minister, Mr. Manana, our Director General, as well as my cabinet colleagues and all senior officials in the department for the good work that they are doing. Siyaku. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Honorable Zwane, Chair of the Select Committee.
Thank you, Chairperson. The Honorable Minister for Higher Education and the Deputy, as well as the Deputy Minister for Basic Education, honorable members of the NCOP, the guests at the gallery that are actually visitors to this very important debate of these two departments. Let me take this opportunity to thank you, Chairperson, for the opportunity to take part in this very important debate, the debate of the budget for basic education as well as the budget for higher education and training. On behalf of the Select Committee on Education and Recreation, I am proud to report that we've always enjoyed maximum cooperation of both the Department of Basic Education and the Department of Higher Education and Training, respectively. I want to take this opportunity to thank the political heads of these two departments, Minister Matsecha and the Deputy Minister that has just addressed us, Minister Suti. I also do want to thank the Honorable Minister of Higher Education and Training, Dr. Nzimande, and the Deputy Minister. And also thank the DDGs and the DGs of these departments for whenever we have engaged with the department, we've always received maximum cooperation, support. And want to thank the political leadership for always being available and giving the political direction that they need to give, given the magnitude of the mandate that they need to execute. We have no doubt that the state of education in our country is going to improve year in and year out because we've been given ambassadors that are equal to the task. As the Select Committee have engaged both departments on their medium-term strategic framework and the annual performance plans, and we've satisfied ourselves that these have been aligned perfectly with the fundamental instruments like the NDP SONA and the relevant pieces of legislative framework that govern the operations of both these departments. Both departments were able to provide clear context within which their strat plans have been developed and a clear account of the annual performance plans and how the budget is aligned to the targets. Our own hero and struggle icon, President Nelson Mandela, when addressing the community of Qono on the occasion of dedicating Qono and Kalande schools on the 3rd of June 1995 said, and I want to quote, "As we set about building a new South Africa, one of our highest priorities must be our children. Our children are the rock on which our future will be built, our greatest asset of the nation. They will be leaders of our country, the creators of national wealth, those who will care and protect our people," close quotation. With this trend of thinking and background, one therefore understands why the ANC-led government has always and continues to insist that education is the apex priority of government. And they've gone further to ensure that the concomitant budget is allocated for these two departments to be able to roll out a quality education that we have fought for our people. But for departments to be able to dispense quality education, there are fundamentals that you cannot ignore. Such fundamentals as the development of our human capital, the development of the curriculum that speaks to the needs of the industry out there. And I'm happy that as we engage the departments, we did actually realize that there is that continuous alignment of the curriculum with the needs of the industry, because we need to produce graduates, we need to produce students that are actually employable. There are non-negotiables. The issue of teachers that are always at work, timeously, prepared for their work, making maximum use of learner-teacher support materials, and teachers that are actually qualified for the subjects that they teach is of critical importance. We need to address the issue also of the mismatch of the skills and qualification vis-a-vis the subjects that the teachers are teaching. I know that the Department of Basic Education has got programs of actually capacitating teachers, skilling them and reskilling with a view to ensuring that they are able to dispense the new curriculum, the CAPS curriculum. We also take pride in the fact that as we look at the matric results, there's been steady progress in terms of improving our performance at that level. But we are not going to focus only at that level of performance. The lower levels are of critical importance, hence the importance of ANA. We are aware that about 7 million learners have actually taken part in the third cycle of these assessments. And it is of critical importance that teachers are trained and understand how to use the results with a view to improving both the performance of the teachers and the performance of the learners. We take pride also in the fact that there are policies that the Department of Education keeps formulating, policies that are meant to attract the teachers to go and work in the rural areas. Abantu abasafuni ukuyosebenza laphaya emakhaya eindaweni zasemakhosini la umgaqo unothuli khona. Ngokubonelela leso simo, the Department of Basic Education is coming up with policies to ensure that there are funds that are going to be used to attract teachers to actually be willing to remain in those areas. Ngoba nalapho kulezo ndawo mhlawumbe ezisabukeleke phansi kanjalo kuphila abantu okudinga bazuze kule mfundo esiyidlulisayo. Also, policy regarding the housing for our teachers so that they are able to have space, appropriate space, to prepare and live and be able to do their work properly in terms of the state prescripts. Provision of transport from their homes to the place of work is another critical issue. And with this government that is in charge, the ANC-led government, today we've got teachers that are reasonably well paid. That has not been done by any other government before. It is the government of the ANC, ecabangela abantu, ukuthi salaries are revised and people are getting a pay that we can call a decent salary. We don't say it is enough, but it will keep improving as we have the financial resources. Also, another issue that I wish to touch on is the issue of early childhood development. The Department of Basic Education has made reasonable gains in that regard. We are having a bigger number, an increasing number of the little ones that are accessing early childhood education. If one were to give figures, in 2003, we had only 300,000 of those. But in 2013, already we had close to about 800,000 of learners that are actually accessing ECD. It means that investment is yielding a proper dividend for us, because we need to ensure that learners access that level of education to give proper background. Because if they are going to fare reasonably well as they progress to grade 12, they need to be given proper foundation, and the practitioners that handle them at that level need to be equipped with adequate qualifications to ensure that they know how to handle the psychology of the children at that level of development, and be practitioners that are productive and relevant. Indaba nje yama-crash asemakhaya akhona esiwathola endaweni, but lapho kulowo ma-crash kufanele kube khona abantu abakwaziyo ukufundisa ingane encane, bayisuse, bayidevelophe until iyamukelwe i-primary school iqhubeke, and if that foundation is firm, we'll have no problems. The parental involvement is another non-negotiable issue. We cannot leave education engane zethu ezandleni zabanye abantu. Thina njengabazali singalithathi, singalibambi iqhaza lokuthi sibonele ukuthi ingane zethu zifunda kahle ezikoleni. Mphephetwa, Minister of Higher Education, ngijabulile nje ukuthi phakathi kwezinye zezinto oziphathayo ukuthi masibuka lapha kwa higher education sesiyabona ukuthi bayanda abantu besifazane abafunda ezingeni le-higher education. That is what we want. But we want to move further than that and have more and more females that are qualified, that are attaining PhDs, more and more females that are becoming vice chancellors, so that you can see that indaba gender parity is actually taking place. And also, umsebenzi omuhle owenza uMphephetwa ekuthenini lama university amasha already you are starting to make them, we are galvanizing them into action. We are beginning to employ staff there, directors, and all the people that are going to be working there. That is highly appreciated. It's good work. It's a good story to tell. About the issue of NSFAS, I would say that you don't have to worry, we don't have to worry about people who will always see negative things in every positive thing that the ANC-led government is coming up with. NSFAS is meant to help poor children, poor parents who cannot afford. Now, people who are going to look at the gloomy side of things are not going to assist us to progress. Yes, there are administrative problems because there are allegations of corruption, but I'm happy that the Department of Education has taken steps to ensure that that issue is addressed. Nanoguchi, as a select committee, we certainly are going to ensure that we invite those universities to come before the select committee and actually account as to how they're using funds. We are going to respond to that. And also, we are going to determine the extent to which they are progressing on issues relating to transformation.
As you conclude, Honorable Member.
As I conclude, we therefore, at the level of higher education, invite our students out there ukuthi ake bafunde izifundo lezi ezirare. The fields of education or the fields that have not been explored before, bangasetlishi for the easier subject fields, because they are not going to be able to make a meaningful contribution in the economy of the country. La sirola out indaba ye infrastructure development massively. Massive capital is going to be injected in infrastructure development, and it will be a sad occasion if we are going to get people from outside, because we don't have the skill that we require within our own country. So those students, it's not time to deface the statues. It's not time to deface the statues, but it is time to study. Go to school and study and get your skills. I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. Honorable Groenewald.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Minister of Higher Education, Deputy Minister of Higher Education, and Honorable Deputy Minister of Basic Education. Honorable members of the NCOP and guests. Oud-president Galema Makantle en oud-president F.D. de Klerk het middel Mei 2015 buite Parel vergader, waar hulle deelgeneem het aan 'n gesprek oor die toestand van Suid-Afrika na 21 jaar se demokrasie. I also want to keep you in mind the new slogan of the Department of Education, Back to Basics. Oud-president Makantle het gesê, hy kry skaam vir die ANC, wanneer hy op televisie sien hoe lede van die ANC oppositie hanteer, asof hulle geen reg het om hul mening oor enige kwessie te lig. Dit is asof die ANC-lede hulself die reg toe-eien, omdat hulle almal sogenaamd deur die ANC bevry is. Don't be afraid of the DA. The DA is there to support basic and higher education, to help to the benefit of all the people, all the students and all the learners of South Africa. Oud-president Makantle sê verder dat die ANC 'n leidende rol in bevryding gespeel het. Ja, dit is waar, deur baie Suid-Afrikaners van alle kleure, klasse en vorme is dit deur bewerkstellig. Honorable Zwane, better salaries for educators is there on behalf of government, not on behalf of the ANC. All of us who are sitting here in government was fighting for that, and not the ANC alone. I agree that there have been gains in many areas since apartheid ended, including access to education. But if we read the report of education, such as recently leaked, National Education Evaluation and Development Unit, NEDU, the report paints a very disturbing picture of the state of education. The first National Education Evaluation Unit report found that South Africa children's reading skills are failing behind those of the international counterparts. A total of 75% of grade 5 learners tested score less than 5% on a simple comprehensive test based on their reading. The annual national assessment showed that by the end of grade 3, only half of grade 3 learners are effectively literate. We should prioritize making sure that every child must be able to read independently and with understanding by the age of 8 or the end of grade 3. We should make sure every foundation phase teacher is fully capable to teaching children to read. A child who cannot read will fail, and you, Minister, need to act fast to avoid this becomes a prognosis for half of our learning population. The DA has viable solutions that will ensure our population become more literate, allowing more learners access to opportunities through freedom and fairness. Every child must be able to read independently and with understanding by the age of 8 and the end of grade 3. Make that number one priority. Provide young learners with reading books, NIDU has told you that the foundation phase learners should be reading at least a title per week, thus 30 a year. I repeat, Honourable Chair, a child who cannot read will fail. Minister, julle hoofklem is terug na basis, back to basic. Begin eerstens leesonderrig van graad 1 tot 3. Tweedens, roei korrupsie uit in alle afdelings van die onderwys. Kyk dan na die taalkwessie. Wat het geword van die derde taal in basiese onderwys? Ons agbare minister het dit ook gesê, dat ons daarna weer moet kyk op universiteitsvlak ook. Die tyd is ryp om dit te implementeer in alle skole, en dit sal lei tot nasiebou. Dit sluit alle kinders in, en daarmee praat ek van moedertaalonderrig. Dit gaan nie oor ras nie. The World Economic Forum this week put South Africa in the bottom third of 124 countries in its first human capital report, which examines countries who have the most people per capita with skills that are productive and most effective. The report argues that countries that optimize their human capital see higher levels of economic growth. It's less about the money a country has and more about harnessing the innate potential of its people. An important finding in this report is that it shows our problem starts in the classroom. There are no easy short-term fixes and, more worryingly, no long-term solutions unless our classrooms are sorted out. It is unacceptable that learners are put through from one grade to another grade without obtaining the necessary skills. The occasion from Education Department only lead to the disadvantage of the learners. Agbare minister, nadat Vestas die kwessie oor taalregte na die hof geneem het, is ons verheug oor die feit dat skole wel selfs deur middel van beheerliggame besluit oor taal en toelatingsbeleid. Regter Gregory Wright het op 26 Mei 2015 die Hooggeregshof in Johannesburg 'n tussentydse bevel uitgereik wat bepaal dat beheerliggame wel daarop geregtig is om sulke besluite te neem. Geregtigheid het geseëvier. Die oppergesag van die reg is gehandhaaf en die administratiewe en bureaukratiese ingryping in die regte en bevoegdhede van beheerliggame is deur hierdie bevel bekamp. Ons woon in 'n nuwe Suid-Afrika. Daar is baie dinge in ons land wat verkeerd is, maar die gehalte van onderrig in die meeste van ons universiteite is nie daarvan nie. En agbare minister van hoër onderwys, ek sien dit as 'n pluimpie vir ons universiteite en hoër instellings. Die meeste van Suid-Afrika se universiteite funksioneer nog uitstekend en elke ouer wat 'n kind in daardie universiteite het, weet dit al te goed. Geen universiteit kan bestaan sonder die finansiële ondersteuning van sy studente nie. En ek is jammer om te sê, maar NAFSAS of NESFAS toon agteruitgang en nie vooruitgang nie. Agbare minister, ons het al baie hieroor gepraat en dit is hoog tyd dat ernstige aksie geneem word en korrupsie beveg word tot voordeel van ons studente. Hoe lank gaan die ondersoeke nog na NESFAS duur? Die DA kyk graag saam met u na volhoubare oplossings vir finansiële steun vir behoeftige studente in die hoër onderwys. Now, where do we start? With only 9 billion being allocated to NEFSAS, approximately 20% of our education budget, can we allow any of this money to go to waste? As ons toelaat dat korrupsie voortduur, sal Suid-Afrika een van die swakste presteerders wees van hoër onderwys. Agbare adjunkminister van basiese onderwys, as u wil hê dat die Gautengse stelsel in duiers moet stort, dan moet u plan uitvoer om 124 enkel medium skole na parallel medium skole te omskep. Die huidige postevoorsiening deur die departement maak nie voorsiening vir parallel medium skole nie. Skole sal dus op eie koste in 2 onderwysers vir elke vak moet aanstel. Hoër skole kan tot 27 vakkeuses hê en dit sal 'n baie duur proses wees. 'n Omgewing wat FETSAS verlede jaar onder 561 skole landwyd geloos het, wys meer as 80% van laer en hoër skole se inkomste uit skoolgeld word genereer uit skoolgeld. Staatssubsidie is net 3% tot 6% van die skool se inkomste. Skole is afhanklik van geld wat deur beheerliggame en ouers ingebring om 'n bepaalde standaard te handhaaf. Francis Assisi sê, I quote, "Start by doing what is necessary, then what is possible, and suddenly you are doing the impossible." Honourable Chairperson, today more than ever, we need to look at education as not just the opportunity, but the quality of education and allow South Africans to have more opportunities. This will be a priority within the DA-led national government. We can use the Western Cape as an example. Minister, I urge you, fix the foundation phase of schooling, teach our children to read and write, so that there is a greater opportunity for all South Africans to take advantage of the diverse set of options that are available once they leave basic education. This is the only way we get more young people employed, grow our economy, and give the freedom of choice that too many South Africans are still deprived of today. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable Tlamini, we continue the debate.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. My greetings to the Minister of Higher Education and the two deputies from Basic Education and Higher Education. Hi, Anisasinisabi, Honorable Grunewald. Sianfuna Sinisabi. In fact, the only challenge that we have, we are not operating at the same level in this house, which is an unfair part of this house. If you deny that you are from the National Party, you are an alliance of the National Party and the Democratic Party, it means that you are still a teenager. You are 21 years. We are also dealing with, some of them are 1 year old. Abanye abazazi ke nokuthi benzani. We are 103 years as the African National Congress. The problem is that when you deal with these people at this age, angeke vele nize understanding, because we're operating at a different level. Allow us to use our experience to do what we know the best. In his State of the Nation address, His Excellency, the President of the country, His Excellency, Honorable Jacob Zuma, has this to say. Listen what we have done in this just 20 years. Through accelerated school infrastructure delivery initiatives, which is part of the National Infrastructure Plan, 92 new schools has been completed to date, and 108 are under construction. About 342 schools have received water for the first time, which you failed to do during your past life. 351 schools have received decent sanitation, while 288 have been connected to electricity. Siyaqhuba, siyasebenza. We are moving forward. We are a nation at work. Government has identified 16 sites for construction of 12 new technical and vocational education training colleges, campuses, and refurbishment of 2 existing campuses. What do you have to tell us of what you did during your term? We have noted with pride, Honorable Minister, in Mpumalanga, the work that has been started in terms of construction of the university, the new University of Mpumalanga, and the Sol Plaatje in the Northern Cape. This brings a sense of pride and ownership to the people of those provinces, because if it was DA when it was still National Party and Democratic Party, those 2 provinces will never have had those universities. This is in line with the National Development Plan that identified, Honorable Grunewald, you are saying you must invest in the early childhood. Honorable Zwane spoke about it. You did not want to listen because you don't want to hear that. I'm repeating it. The National Development Plan identified early childhood development as top priority amongst the measures to improve the quality of education and long-term prospect of our future generations. You talk about if we were to have our children to be employed, this is what we are doing as this government. Dedicated resources should be channeled towards ensuring that all children are well cared for from an early age and receiving appropriate emotional and cognitive and physical development simulations. All children should have at least 2 years of preschool education. This will ensure that education is a catalyst to change the socio-economic status of our people and therefore will ensure economic growth, which means that as government, there must be a conscious, dedicated program that will assist us as government to move our people from the poverty lines where we were damned or left or pushed by the apartheid government to acceptable levels of development. Having said that, maybe, Honorable Minister, we need to look at repackaging our courses. For example, to what extent do we use IT to accelerate development in our work of construction and engineering? We must consider maybe packaging engineering as they do now, that once you complete engineering, you also do a project management to assist you in the implementation of the course. Maybe we need to include IT because this is what developed countries are doing to fast-track development. Having said that, we do acknowledge that we are still having challenges in the field of education at all levels. You speak of child abuse, teenage pregnancy, HIV and AIDS, as well as alcohol and drug abuse. We want to commend both Department of Basic Education and Higher Education for the initiatives that has been put in place to ensure that we deal with these challenges to assist our young people. One of the projects, if I may mention one by Higher Education, the First Things First, Honorable Deputy Minister, we've noted with pride that you are very much involved with this program to assist our young people to deal with the issues of HIV and AIDS. This initiative will not only benefit the close to 2 million students and staff who attend the higher education, but it will also benefit the families and the broader community. We really appreciate that and commend as the committee. The need for such initiative is evident. Over half of the world's young population infected with HIV lives in the Eastern and Southern Africa. The Eastern Cape had a prevalence rate of 29.3%, that was in 2011, while the Northern Cape and the Western Cape is 17% and the Western Cape 18.2%. We want to commend the department for the programs that you have put in place. Substance abuse issues form part of the department's curriculum with the life orientation area. Schools have been provided with a guide to drug testing in South African schools. The department has to ensure that life orientation programs provide learners with relevant knowledge on drugs and alcohol abuse so that they can make appropriate choices when confronted with these substances. The extent of drug and alcohol abuse by our youth is a matter of national and global concern. DA is not an ANC matter. You are also part of that. Together we must be concerned and ensure that we deal with these issues. During the month of June, we simultaneously celebrate Youth Day, that is the 16th, as well as International Day Against Drug Abuse, illicit trafficking on the 26th of June. As an extension of National Drug Master Plan, the Department of Education has developed a policy framework on the management of drug abuse in all public schools and further education training institutions. The policy framework focuses on prevention and early intervention based on a restorative justice approach. It is important that the department works in tandem with the Department of Social Development, Health, Police Services, and Department of Sports and Recreation to keep our young people busy with meaningful activities like sports in schools, arts and culture, and so on, so that they are kept away from such activities that is destroying their future. Where a child shows symptoms of using or abusing substances, they must immediately be referred to the assessment and counseling. We cannot allow drugs or substances addiction to happen to our kids. It is therefore imperative that all government, non-government, and private sector stakeholders work in an integrated manner to thwart this evil problem. I commend the ministers for both departments for the work done so far as part of the school curriculum education to educate our children of the harm of school and drug abuse. We therefore call upon the parents, the community at large, to be part of this program so that we ensure that our future is secured. Because if we don't do that, our future may be blinked. We can invest as much as we can, honorable ministers, but the future of our children will be affected by these evil things such as AIDS, HIV, and child abuse. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much. Honorable Kaula. Continue the debate.
Honorable Deputy Chairperson of the NCOP, Honorable Minister Mpepeta, the Honorable Deputy Ministers, education has always been and remains the IFP's primary focus since its inception. It is for this reason that even during the days of the struggle, when some were calling for liberation now, education later, the IFP's motto was education for liberation. The problems of education will not solely be resolved by pouring money into the system. Whilst finances and resources are an essential part of the solution, there are but challenges that simply require organizational attention. During the month of May this year, protest marches by educators in Uku and Ilembe districts in KwaZulu-Natal nearly brought the whole education system to a state of near collapse in the province. Such protests also took place in some parts of the Eastern Cape. It is a good thing that the department has now started processes to attend to the issue of the irregular interferences by some unions in the appointment of principals and other promotion posts. The improper and care-not attitude in the management of education at school level, circuit level, and district levels has a major contribution in the setback that education is experiencing. The awarding of posts to friends, to the connected, and the non-deserving candidates has dealt education major blows in the past. It is true that the African children who speak African languages struggle more than their counterparts of the same age, whose home language is English. The IFP therefore supports the popularization of the African languages in education. The department has matched the Dinalede schools allocation with the Technical Secondary Schools Recapitalization Grant in order to focus to improving mathematics and physical science teaching. Both these programs had a continuous legacy and trend of underspending. Therefore, one hopes that the new program will be able to make a contribution to effecting quality education. Also hoping that rural schools will be given first preference in the new initiative. Rural districts are doubly disadvantaged in South Africa because adequately skilled personnel in all fields are not keen to be posted to rural areas. The challenges of infrastructure and personnel have continued to pose unintended divisions in the delivery of the education service in the country. The situation still persists whereby affordability determines the type and quality of education your children will receive. Farm schools especially, and rural schools mostly, have high levels of dilapidating and poor quality infrastructure. It is mostly in the farm schools where the practice of multi-grading is common. This is because of low population figures resulting in low enrollments. The department also needs to tread carefully on the issue of schools' rationalization program. Whilst the objective of rationalization might be noble and progressive, but if not handled well, the initiative ends up disadvantaging the very communities and learners for whom it is designed to assist. When a school is shut down and learners are relocated because of low enrollment figures, but alternative transport means are not provided, this becomes a disadvantage to those learners. This has happened and has affected a number of communities around KwaZulu-Natal. The department plans to strengthen the capacity of district offices to support schools. This is well and good, but the department should start by solving the shortcoming of subject advisors who do not provide any advice. They languish in the offices sometimes because they do not have essential resources to execute their duties, or because some districts are too vast and they are saving their kilometers awarded for a given month, but some are just lazy. There is also the shortcoming of circuit and district managers who are just not managing anything. Therefore, the department should intensify its measures of monitoring and evaluation, especially at middle management levels. There is a historical long-standing issue of OSD in KwaZulu-Natal, which has remained unresolved for the past 8 to 9 years. This has greatly hindered the infrastructure initiatives of the province, as funds meant for infrastructure have had to be redirected to cover for this. Whilst the budget for NSFAS has been increasing over the past years, the challenges pertaining to NSFAS have not been subsiding. The department has centralized management of NSFAS in order to deal with corruption relating to non-deserving students getting assistance at the expense of real deserving cases. Be that as it may in perpetua, at the beginning of every academic year, the smooth kickoff of the year's program gets threatened by student protests relating largely to the poor management of NSFAS. The pace of the transformation agenda of the department has failed to keep up with the transformation expectations of the students' community and the whole tertiary institution stakeholders. This has resulted in those concerned losing faith and hope to the department to be able to deliver on this aspect. The consequence of this has been instability in some tertiary institutions in the country. The poor state of students' accommodation in some of the country's tertiary institutions leave a lot to be desired. Of course, most of these institutions, especially the ones that were black-dominated, were built at the time when it was difficult for those times, under those circumstances, to get state-of-the-art resources. But after 21 years of democracy, we would have expected that the democratic government seriously engage in putting efforts in uplifting the image of our tertiary institutions in respect of students' accommodation and infrastructure. Some tertiary institutions in the country still pursue the programs of diplomatic academic exclusion, which are largely unchallengeable, legally unchallengeable, but are mostly unjustifiable through well-crafted exclusion policies. This must be attended to. In conclusion, the Select Committee undertook an oversight visit to KSD. The issue of alignment and improvement of conditions of service, including salaries, still remains a major cause for concern to staff and management at the TVET colleges. Under these circumstances, the retention of staff is still a challenge under the present unsatisfactory conditions. I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Kaula. Honorable Julius.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honorable Minister Nzimande, Deputy Minister Surti and Manana, members and the public, thank you for the opportunity. First thing I want to say, as much as we acknowledge all the injustices of the past, this thing of previous government, let's just put it in perspective once and for all. In my view, and the majority of South Africans, you are the previous government. You governed from 94, 99, 2004, 2009, 2014. You are your own previous government. It's time to act up. You are 21 years and we want value for our tax money. Please.
As a teacher myself, a chairperson, I'm witness to the low morale in this profession. More and more teachers are not enjoying their work anymore. The quality of learning and teaching remain compromised in our township schools due to overcapacity classrooms and a lack of support from your department. In Gauteng alone, over 500 schools are over capacity. Now, Honorable Zwane, you know, education is not improving unless you are living in a dream because of your ANC-led government. The norms and standards require that classes in primary schools should have no more than 35 learners in a class. And in secondary schools, no more than 40 learners per class. 42 primary schools in Gauteng have over 50 learners per class. 84 secondary schools in Gauteng have more than 50 learners per class. This places a heavy burden on our learners and educators. The problem is worsened by the fact that most of these schools, sadly, are in township school areas. They are the learners that need special attention due to the imbalances of the past, yet they are the ones being neglected by this government. This is very, very unfortunate. Unless we use these figures when doing teacher placements, it will help you to listen. We will not change the situation. Please correct learner-teacher ratios. Otherwise, the quality of education will be only for those who can afford it in South Africa. In the Northern Cape, 3 schools managed to maintain a 100% pass rate for grade 12 from 2010 to 2014. The ANAS, the annual assessment results, show that 2.4 of grade 9 learners in the Northern Cape managed to achieve more than 30% in mathematics, but it's your pass rate, 30%. The Public Service Commission in this province visited 30 schools in January 2015. This inspection showed that most of these schools were without running water. According to the Provincial Commissioner, Moira Marais Martin, this leads to pupils trying to use toilet facilities without water to flush waste material. How sad. The toilets are in an unbearable condition. School toilets in townships are not being taken care of. That is what she said. Honorable Minister, we do not care about the dignity of our learners, especially in township schools. In my community, 2 out of 3 schools are still with asbestos buildings. They're building around an asbestos building. What about our learners? What about our children? As of June 2015, learners at the Karos Primary School are receiving instructions under a tent because the school buildings are unsafe and in a bad state of despair. If you want to know, I know you're asking, it's Randfontein. The schools are in Randfontein, Toekomsrus, both of them. Research conducted by Equal Education recently indicated that on average 100 pupils are made to share a single toilet in Gauteng schools. Again, these schools are in previously disadvantaged areas, and they include Tembisa, please write it down, Tembisa, Artridgeville, Alexandra, and Meadowlands. They also found there's no soap in the toilets, no toilet paper, or basic sanitary facilities in these schools. This is after the Gauteng MEC for Education, Panyaza Lusufi, promised to spend 150 million rand to upgrade sanitation conditions in 580 schools. What has become of that? I wish to join Equal Education in their call to urge the Basic Education Department to correct the situation before June the 16th, because you will celebrate June the 16th as if you are doing something for our youth. Please correct this. Honorable Deputy Minister Surti, let me remind you, the norms and standards for school infrastructure legally binds you to ensure that every school have water, electricity, internet, working toilets, safe classrooms with a maximum of 40 learners per class, security, and thereafter libraries, laboratories, and sport facilities. Failure to do so, Minister, will mean that you are legally not fulfilling your task as Deputy Minister. Chairperson, the Democratic Alliance believe that we must create job opportunities for all our people and especially our youth in our country. In order for our youth to take full advantage of opportunities in the job market, they need to be skilled. They rely heavily on the Department of Higher Education
for this, Honorable Nsimande, Minister. Deputy Minister Surti wants one of in every 5 learners you want them in the university. Surely you are not talking to each other because you're contradicting each other. There's a figure of 1-point-something million. I want this next year. The 2 departments are not talking to each other. And even if you want 1 out of every 5, where are the bursaries? You don't even have bursaries for 2. This department again failed our students in FET or VET colleges. Over 100,000 of these young people who have qualified in a variety of technical or other fields from 2007 have still not received their official certificates from the Department of Higher Education. These learners are being deprived of the opportunity to look for a job. This is very serious matter to the DA, and we will follow it up. As we are in Youth Month, we can really say that this government, and especially the Department of Basic Education, can you really say you did all for the youth? I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. May I call on the Deputy Minister Manana to continue with the debate?
Honorable Deputy Chairperson of the NSOP, the Minister of Higher Education and Training, Dr. Nzimande, Deputy Minister of Basic Education, Honorable Serti, the MEC for Education in the Western Cape, Honorable Schaefer, Select Committee Chairperson, Honorable Zwan, and members of the Select Committee, members of the NCOP, the DG and the staff of the department, heads and executive of all post-school organizations and institutions, guests and special guests of the Minister, fellow South Africans, good afternoon. Honorable Chair, we meet here today to table and debate the Higher Education and Training Appropriation Bill, conveniently during this Youth Month, and as our memories gush back to remind us of the terrible past that our country comes from, to infuse us with pride in the heroism of our youth, and to enjoin us once more that never again shall our young people be stoned because they want a better education. Instead, today, they will use education and skills to fight poverty and unemployment. Honorable Chairperson, last year, we launched and declared 2014 to 2024 as the decade of the artisan, with an aim of creating a new cohort of qualified artisans who will play a central role in growing the emerging sectors of our economy, while also enhancing employment opportunities for our youth. We stand committed to work tirelessly to elevate the status and profile of artisans in the country. We are also determined to see our TVET colleges becoming institutions of first choice, and our robust and frank engagements with employers to open up their workplaces for our artisan learners to gain workplace exposure will continue unhindered. To strengthen the work we are doing in promoting artisanship, we will this year participate in the WellSkills International competitions for the first time as a fully fledged affiliate to WellSkills International. Honorable Chairperson, in the area of career development, we are working tirelessly to establish a credible institutional mechanism for skills planning, the provision of skilled people, and a national career development system. Last year, Cabinet approved that the Department of Higher Education and Training lead the development of a career development policy, and I'm happy to report that this policy will be finalized this year and will provide the impetus to a single coordinated service. In this regard, we have developed a multi-platform service that provides free career information, advice, and guidance to anyone in the country, and we have established an online presence to support thousands of young people who need career development, in this way developing a self-help portal to provide career information. There is now an information management team dedicated to ensuring that the career information available through the site is credible, relevant, and accurate at all times. On HIV/AIDS, Honorable Chairperson, and indeed, thank you very much, Honorable Dlamini and members of the Select Committee, for noticing this impeccable work that we are doing in really trying to secure a brighter future and a prolonged life, or rather prolonged lives for our young people. The Higher Education AIDS program is continuing to implement comprehensive programs that respond to the impact of the dual epidemics of HIV, STIs, and TB in the higher education and training sector. Today, we report with confidence that the measures we have since put in place will result in better returns on investment and in better student throughput rates. We will continue in the coming year with activation programs of promoting HIV testing and screening of TB, targeting especially our rural and township university and college campuses. In the last financial year, we managed, Honorable Chair, to test over 100,000 students and staff for HIV, screened another 92,000 for TB, and 81,000 for STIs. In this financial year, our target is to test and screen 170,000 students and staff, but we will also be making sure that those who test positive are put on treatment, care, and support. There is no doubt, honorable members, that it will only take a healthy nation to breed a healthy economy. In terms of the Apply Now campaign, we have now started with the 2015 leg of the Apply Now campaign, where we are visiting rural and township schools across the country, disseminating information on the need for matriculants to apply in time to institutions of higher learning, as well as offer career advice to grade 9 to 12 learners. We have partnered with the Department of Basic Education in the training of life orientation teachers and in the distribution of the Apply Now and career guidance booklets to all grade 12 learners across the 6,000 high schools in the country. On disability, Honorable Chairperson and honorable members, last year we launched the Social Inclusion Policy Framework, which will, among other social inclusion issues, advocate for the establishment of disability units in all post-school education and training institutions, and also address the important issues of reasonable accommodation and access for students with disabilities. Notwithstanding these advances, the department continues to fund students with disabilities for their tuition, assistive devices, and other personal needs like accommodation and transport. Many challenges still exist in the college system, especially because of lack of understanding of the learning area. However, we are doing our best to assist them, and we have no doubt that the new policy will address some of these challenges. We'll also intensify the campaign of visiting special schools in the country to promote post-school opportunities for persons with disabilities, as well as funding opportunities. Honorable Chairperson, as government, we remain convinced that if we pursue the sectors that the growth path has identified as growth points, there is a huge potential of creating an inclusive economy that will be on a growth trajectory. There is no doubt, therefore, that young professionals and cooperatives in particular must come into this space so that together we create the inclusive economy that we are all yearning for. We have seen many cooperatives being established in our country, but very few are succeeding. We attribute this failure to lack of training in areas such as cooperative management, financing, and conflict resolution, amongst others. The minister has mandated my office to lead a process of establishing the country's first cooperative academy, and will report to the House on the progress we are making in this area. Honorable Chairperson, also this year, we'll start with the piloting of e-learning at selected teaching and learning delivery sites as part of our response to a wave of dynamic education sector reforms, specifically related to the adoption of educational technologies to enhance teaching and learning practices, education management, research, and administration. Honorable Chair, honorable members, let me take this opportunity to thank the President of the Republic of South Africa for the trust he has shown in me and the continuous support he gives us, to the Minister of Higher Education and Training, Dr. Nzimande, for the guidance, support, and teamwork, as well as the Director General and the entire staff complement of the department and the ministry for their hard work and commitment to the continuing struggle to achieve the noble goal of a better life for all our people through education and skills development. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Vodo.
Allow me first and foremost to acknowledge the presence of our supreme forces, irrespective of whatever our perceptions might be. I greet you all with Assalamu alaikum. Honorable Chair, Honorable Minister, Honorable Deputy Ministers, Honorable members, members in the gallery. In almost every aspect of our lives, education plays a fundamentally important role. In the fight against the HIV epidemic, in all efforts to reduce accidents on our roads, in the fight against crime, in the efforts to grow the economy, in industrialization, in the future of the planet, in human behavior and culture, the emphasis, of course, being on our diverse South Africa, in the defining history of this beautiful country, and so the list Honorable Chair, goes on and on. The importance of education cannot be overemphasized. And I quote a Tibetan proverb, "A child without education is like a bird without wings." The creation of employment is directly related to the level of education in a country. Education is not preparation for life. Education is life itself, a quotation from John Dewey. This celebration of matric results is from a bygone era, honorable ministers. I observed with some dismay the fanfare surrounding the celebration of results in the different provinces. Such a waste of resources, such an exercise in futility. Our children require tertiary education, which will empower them to be able to play a meaningful role in the socio-economic systems in this country. Education will go a long way to empower our children on how to make a living. Presently, young people with matric have no or very little chance of finding employment. It is access to tertiary education that will create not only young people who are employable, but potential employers themselves. Honorable Minister and the Honorable Deputy Minister, your references to the Freedom Charter only serve to emphasize further the sad indictment on this administration that 21 years into the New South Africa, the education system still falls far short of acceptable. The new universities in Mpumalanga and Northern Cape should actually become beacons in the New South Africa. At present, they are headed in the same direction as the disasters in Eskom. The very site of the university in Mpumalanga is far inferior in position, overall accessibility, and international appeal than other better sites in the province. This is already the beginning of major problems to come. Political interference knows no bounds with this administration. And the adverse effects of this political interference are multiplied by the lack of vision displayed. Vision without action remains a dream, honorable ministers. But action without vision is a nightmare. 2 new universities will go nowhere near redressing the backlog that exists in accommodating school leavers in this country. Most matriculants eligible to enter university were not accommodated. It would take far more than 2 universities to assist in this regard. Last year, the country celebrated 75.8% matric pass rate. But in 2003, 1,252,000 pupils entered grade 1. In 2014, only 688,660 pupils sat for their matric examination. Only 55% of the learners who started school in 2003 made it through 12 years education. The rest were lost along the wayside. An indictment once again on your administration, honorable ministers. Only around 41% of learners who started school obtained a national senior certificate, while 59% did not. Only around 12% gained admission to bachelor studies. The rest go to colleges, while the majority are condemned to loiter around with no hope of ever doing anything for themselves. Fundamentals of basic education, like proper classrooms, knowledgeable teachers, good nutrition, sanitation, and scholar transport, fall far short of being adequate. And Honorable Chair, I heard with some concern a member of the cabinet stand on this podium earlier today and argue that poverty is not a good enough reason for compromised performance. Poverty that is depriving our children of proper classrooms, poverty depriving our children from good nutrition, poverty depriving our children of proper sanitation, poverty that is depriving our children of proper transport. And yet, we have a member of the cabinet who says to us that poverty does not compromise the performance of our children. Please, honorable ministers, explain to us exactly what that means. Poverty is depriving 70% of the people in this country, not only of education, but also of many other basic constitutional rights. More and more of our children are condemned to a life of limited opportunity because they are not being provided with basic rights. And I quote George Washington Carver, "Education is the key to unlock the golden door of freedom." 21 years into the new South Africa, still many people are deprived of true freedom. Plans to close over 1,000 schools in the Eastern Cape and also in the Western Cape further compromises our children. In the Eastern Cape, the department has been forced by the courts on several occasions to treat teachers correctly. And to this date, the department has done nothing to improve the conditions of teachers and other education facilities in the province. It is difficult for learners to access institutions of higher learning because of the very nature of the higher education system in this country, which favors the wealthy and denies the poor. The limited capacity of these institutions to absorb all qualifying learners further exacerbates the problem. Statistics showed that the post-secondary education sector had the capacity to absorb about 420,000 learners, while more than 600,000 need seats. Over 1 million students actively looking for opportunities to further their studies at any given time, and in any given year in this country, condemned to a life of limited economic potential. And when learners do find accommodation in tertiary institute, then the demon of financial exclusion begins to manifest itself. NSFAS alone, Honorable Minister, is not the answer.
Your time has expired. I shall now call on the Honorable MEC, Honorable D. Shafa.
Good afternoon, Honourable House Chairperson, Honourable Minister of Higher Education, Deputy Minister Sochi and Manana, members, officials and guests. Yes, I'm a friendly MEC. Thank you very much for the opportunity to address this House on Minister Machega's 2015-16 Basic Education Budget Vote speech. For the purposes of this debate, I will confine myself largely to basic education. Chairperson, Minister Machega announced in her speech in the National Assembly at the beginning of the month the measures that her department is taking to improve quality and efficiency in education throughout the country, with a renewed emphasis on curriculum coverage, improving assessment and strengthening quality, efficiency and accountability in our schools, districts and provinces. All these are admirable goals. In fact, they are essential, and the Minister is to be commended for acknowledging that these need to be improved and starting to take steps in that direction. A quality education is essential for every child to give them the best possible opportunities in life. And by quality, we must mean the best possible education for the individual learner, taking into account their abilities and circumstances. Last year, I highlighted the gaps in the Minister's budget speech on the importance of increased access to special needs education and technical skills development in schools. And I am pleased to see that the Minister has placed more emphasis on addressing these issues this year. The Western Cape already leads the country in the provision of special needs education, both for high needs learners in special schools and increasingly for low and moderate support needs learners in our inclusive ordinary schools. We plan to increase access in the coming years. We also support in principle the new three-streamed approach of academic, vocational and technical curricula. The educational needs of our children are diverse. Not everyone can or wishes to follow a purely academic education, and it is long overdue that alternative pathways are offered. Given that, combined with the persistent high dropout rates, we therefore support in principle the development of a new exit level certificate. However, the Minister's announcement on this lacked detail and gave the impression that it is a desperate attempt to come up with a quick fix solution for learners who are being pushed up from grade to grade without even passing very often, as a result of the so-called progression policy. I say so-called as it seems laughable to refer to progress in any sense when one is speaking of learners who have not met the already very low criteria and yet are put through to a higher grade with which they are unable to cope. We look forward to receiving more information on the proposed skills and vocational pathway program and the implementation thereof, particularly bearing in mind the impact of changes in the curriculum and the costs of training and employing suitable educators in the current economic climate. Ultimately, the only way we are going to improve education, however, in South Africa is by ensuring increased levels of accountability throughout the system, coupled with incentives. If there are no incentives for those who perform well, and no accountability for those who do not, there really is no reason for people to improve performance. That is unfortunately human nature, for better or worse. So it is a welcome development that the Minister has just announced the development of standards of principalship to guide principals as to what is expected of them. It is unfortunate, however, that we need to do that, as good principals should already know what is expected of them. But it unfortunately represents the state our education system is in. Principals are the leaders in our schools, and they set the tone as to whether the school will be a well-performing school or an underperforming school. Other than this, however, the Minister has announced very little in the way of measures to strengthen accountability and efficiency. Last year in the Western Cape, we instituted competency assessments for the appointment of principals, which were used by almost all, if not all, schools appointing new principals. The response has been very positive, with a number of principals requesting more such assessments in order to improve their skills. This year, we are rolling them out for deputy principal and HOD appointments. It is a concern that we remain the only province to do this, however, especially given the importance placed on it in the NDP. Of course, equally important are our teachers. Competent, committed educators are essential for our children to receive a quality education. And teacher training is probably the most significant thing we can do in South Africa to improve our education system. We are pleased that the DBE will be working with the Department of Higher Education and Training to better influence the quality of our teachers in critical subjects such as maths, science and technology. However, we should be concerned about the quality of teaching in all subjects. She's not here, Deputy Minister. I have also recently discovered, to my horror, that teacher training is receiving the least funding in our universities, the lowest level of funding. Considering the priority that education is in our country, I would imagine that the Minister and or Deputy Minister may wish to take this up with Minister Nzimande. But improved training must be accompanied by improved accountability. Incentives and accountability are what drive change in human behavior. Good teachers should be rewarded when they perform well, whilst teachers who do not perform well should not, and principals and officials, it goes across the board. Where is the incentive to do well if everyone is paid the same and there are no consequences for failing to attend school on time or at all, well prepared or not at all prepared, or for doing extramurals or not, as the case may be? I see nothing from Minister Motshekga to address that issue. Chairperson, last year the Minister received the report of the NSC task team. One recommendation was that the curriculum should not be changed in the foreseeable future, as there have been too many curriculum changes and they have negatively affected our learners, teachers and their results. And yet in her budget speech this year, she announced a new ministerial task team to conduct research into doing exactly that, by investigating how to make history a compulsory subject for all learners in grades 10 to 12. What exactly is the reason for this? other than to appease alliance partners before the 2016 local government elections. History is compulsory until grade 9. If there are things that are deemed appropriate and for the right reasons that are not currently included in the curriculum, then surely they can be incorporated into that syllabus. We trust that the financial implications of changing textbooks, which will cost millions, and employing and training additional teachers will also be considered by the task team and the minister. But the crucial point really is that learners will be severely limited in their choice of subjects. They already have to take 2 languages, mathematics or math literacy, and then also life orientation. So they only have 3 subjects from which to choose for their matric qualification. If they then have to take history, they will only be allowed a choice of 2 subjects, which will obviously affect their future options for careers and tertiary education. This cannot be in the interest of quality education. Another attempt to limit choice in our education system is the single textbook per subject, about which we remain concerned. It is becoming more apparent that the catalogue, which we were told would remain and from which we could choose, will only contain 1 book per subject. The stated intention of cost savings is noble in principle, but in practice, we do not believe it is good for quality education. If the ANC government spent more effort on dealing with corruption and maladministration in other departments, there would be more than enough money to purchase quality textbooks without limiting the choice of teachers and learners and endangering the public publishing industry. I have raised this with the Minister and Deputy Minister, the ongoing concerns of the publishing industry. The impact was brought home to me very clearly in a recent meeting with publishers, when it was explained that a small publisher is developing a maths book for grade 10. He said if it does not make the catalogue, there will be little incentive for them to develop a grade 11 one. I do not have to explain the potential dangers that lie in minimizing the amount of available material for education. On the quality, finally, the NSC task team also strongly recommended that matric markers should be required to demonstrate their competence prior to being appointed, citing subject matter competency tests. Again, not a single word has been said about this crucial aspect by the Minister, and the DA-led Western Cape government remains the only province to conduct testing of this nature. Just briefly on a few of the inputs, Deputy Minister Surti, yes, the nutrition model has certainly been successful in most provinces, and that's the beauty, I think, of the concurrent competencies. We have found the decentralized model to be a model for corruption and inefficiency, and that's exactly why we aren't doing it in the Western Cape. As far as ICT is concerned, thank you for acknowledging that we are making significant progress there. We are indeed, and you're quite right. Teachers' pedagogy is important, and we have already recognized that. Our principals have already started training, and so have our teachers, on the integration of ICT into the curriculum. Our wide area network is being installed as we speak. Honourable Dlamini, you seem to have forgotten that NNP is now part of the ANC, not the DA. Honourable Manana, I'm very happy to hear about the career guidance, but the learners need career guidance before grade 12, actually. And I would think it might be a good idea if you could look at making it available at an earlier age as well, before subject choices, if they still have a choice after the latest submissions are dealt with. Honourable Chairperson, I just would like to end by saying that we can talk about quality, we can talk about accountability and efficiency, but when we look at what is actually done, we are a long way off making a meaningful difference in our education system at a national level. We need real incentives and real accountability to improve the system, and until that is implemented, we will remain far down the world education rankings, which is certainly not a situation that any of us should be happy with. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Honourable MEC. Honourable Stock.
Well, thank you very much, Honourable Chairperson. Honourable Minister, Honourable Deputy Ministers, Honourable Deputy Chair of the NCOP, Honourable Chief Whip Acting, the Honourable members of the NCOP, special delegates, ladies and gentlemen, comrades and friends. Honourable Chairperson, Honourable Groenewald comes to the podium and makes a very serious misleading statement by saying that the former Deputy President of the ANC and who was also a Deputy President of the country, of the Republic, Honourable Motlanthe, made a statement by saying that he he's so disappointed about what the ANC has done in the past. And that statement was made in the presence of FW de Klerk. And I want to correct that statement of this honorable member because I think he's suffering from the sickness of forgetting, you know, of misleading this house. Every time he comes to the house, he's always coming with stories that he's unable to expatiate or come up with a proper interpretation of the statement. It is not our fault that you have interpreted the statement the way you wanted to. You are coming with a different context altogether. What we can tell honorable members in this house is that Kgalema Motlanthe is a member of the ANC in good standing. He's a former president of the ANC, former president of the Republic, and he's also very good about the achievements that the ANC has done over the past 21 years. So it is very opportunistic for members of some parties to come here and make these misleading statements. Honorable Vauda, to be honest, I don't think I've got anything else to say to you, but maybe as a word of an advice, is that, you know, we're moving from a premise that says we need to celebrate all the good stories or the good achievements that our learners are doing. So it's not something bad that the Department of Basic Education are celebrating the results of the matriculants and all of that. So for you to come here and encourage us not to celebrate those good stories, it's maybe because of your party. It's only a year since it was established. And you've got nothing to celebrate because you are only starting. You are only starting. And I don't see you as a government in waiting. And this is one of the issues that we need to correct, honorable members in this house. These EFF members, they've got a tendency of coming here, making statements, mislead the public, then they leave. And it's something that we need to correct moving forward. Honorable Chairperson, during our efforts in destroying the bad legacy of apartheid, the ANC has committed itself to embark on a process of building a new, better South Africa. It is important to emphasize this point because some of the members of this house tend to behave as if there was nothing wrong about the apartheid regime. We have inherited a racially divided past, which was also patriarchal and highly unequal education system. And majority of our people are still healing the wounds of the scars of this brutal system of apartheid. We must applaud and say thank you to the ANC because it remains the only hope to the aspirations of our people. The 53rd National Conference of the ANC also resolved that the fees of university students must cover tuition, accommodation, food, books, and all of that. And I'm happy that the Honorable Minister Nzimande also spoke at length about it. You see, this thing of always speaking about corruption, this and that, it's a good thing, but it must be with good intentions. In our committee, we have made a point that we are also happy that the minister at the level of the department has taken an initiative to investigate, to conduct a forensic investigation about this thing of NSFAS. Now, we are also picking it up that other members of certain political parties, they want to make this important issue a political tool. They've got other agendas that we don't know, but we are saying, Minister, continue with that investigation, we'll engage it. Honorable members, the manifesto of the ruling party states that within the 5 years, the ANC will make early childhood development a top priority. That the manifesto also argues that for the improvement of quality teaching and learning and eradication of illiteracy in the schooling system. Honorable members, I have no doubt in my mind that these priorities have fundamentally informed the department's radical program for educational transformation. As a champion of further education in the country, which is the Department of Higher Education and Training, it has a statutory obligation to ensure that government delivers more higher education in the different institutions of higher learning. The South African post-school landscape is comprised, amongst others, its educational institutions, about 50 public, vocational and education and training colleges, and 390 private VCTs colleges in the country as reported in March 2014. The target growth of the post-school system to 2.5 million in 2030 and a continued increase in the matric pass rate alarms to dire need of educational institutions. For instance, honorable members, looking at the fact that the VCT headcount enrollments in 2014-2015 financial year
have reached a total of 657,690 students. This demonstrates the demand for education and training opportunities by the South African youth population. In 2010, the Department of Higher Education with the South African Police Services conducted a preliminary investigation that has exposed that there are 48 unregistered private FET colleges around Pietermaritzburg and Durban, 10 which is also in Bloemfontein, and then 5 which is in Umtata, and 8 which is located in Mafikeng. Likewise, there are people who are arrested, and 7 of those people were also arrested for the running of these illegal colleges throughout the country. And the department has also closed down 14 of such colleges in the same year. We also would like to, as a select committee, would like to thank the department for such a good initiative. In 2013, a family in Seshego who ran a bogus college, training college in Limpopo, was closed down by the Hawks after the students inquired about its legitimacy with the Department of Higher Education. The impact of these illegal colleges to our communities is that these illegal colleges robs the persons the opportunity to get quality education, finances in the form of fees, and betterment of their lives in the form of job prospects. It is so unfortunate that these affected and mostly are people who are coming from the poor communities, putting further strain in the lives and the families which they come from. Honorable Chair, the NDP recognizes that the quality of education for most children is poor and commits that by 2030, South Africa achieves the following: high quality and universal early childhood education, quality school education with globally competitive literacy and numeracy standards, further and higher education and training that enables people to fulfill their potential, an expanding higher education sector that contributes to rising incomes and higher productivity that shift to a more knowledge-intensive economy. Honorable Chairperson, the following is the progress that the ANC-led government has made since 2009 in regard to the transformation of our education system. The students' headcount enrollment at universities has increased by 12% from 837,779,000 to 937,455. The first-time enrollments at universities has also increased by 9% from 164,528 to 179,101. The graduates from universities has increased by 11% from 144,810 to 160,299. The graduates in the engineering sector, engineering science, has increased by 9% from 8,424 to 9,193. The graduates in the women health and animal health has increased by 10% from 7,341 to 8,049. The graduates in the graduates who have registered for master's graduates increased by 26% from 4,179 to 5,281. Doctoral graduates increased by 15% from 1,373 to 1,576. NASFA students' bursary funding and FET colleges increased from 318 million in 2010 to 1.9 billion in 2013, targeting 222,817 students. We also like to report that the two post-apartheid universities, which is the Mpumalanga University, which is in Mpumalanga, and also the Solplaiki University in the Northern Cape. Honorable members, I just want to indicate in terms of the progress. I reported also in the committee, I was one of the delegations that went to just to go and check the progress that was made since the establishment of the University of Solplaiki in Kimberley, which was led by the Premier Ms. Sylvia Lucas. And I can report to this August House that the people of the Northern Cape are very excited, they are very happy, and that university brings their dignity back. Young people are very excited in relation to that. And I know also that Minister Nzimande, who is also the Minister of Higher Education, Solplaiki University is very close to his heart, not because of it was named after the first Secretary General of the ANC, but because of the historical evolution of the Solplaiki and so forth. Honorable Chairperson, this is in a nutshell a good story to tell, and therefore as the ANC we support this budget vote of both the Department of Basic Education and Higher Education. Siyaqhuba, siyasebenza, re dira go tlala seatla. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. I shall now call on the Honorable Member Tlake.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, Honorable Acting Chief Whip, Honorable Ministers and their deputies, MEC from different provinces, Honorable Members, Honorable Heads of Departments, DGs of both departments who are here, officials of the Parliament, members of the community into the gallery. Chairperson, I thank the opportunity to be standing here, to be debating on both basic and higher education and training in this august house of the province, of the Council of the Provinces today. I then further want to thank the ministers of both education and higher education and their deputies who are here today. I think you have removed the myth that ministers don't come when they are called to answer the questions or to debate. You are here today and you can all see you. Thank you. I listened carefully when the ministers and deputy was talking to us as members of the NCOP in this august house. And at the same time bringing awareness to our members of society who are listening to them out there at home in the provinces, who are listening to them in the provinces at this point in time. I want to thank you for bringing facts and truth to the people and not manipulation of facts that we normally see in this august house, whereby other parties want to gain cheap popularity by the manipulation of facts. The speech of the ministers, the deputy ministers, actually identified the achievements as far as these departments are concerned. And this shows us, as an ANC-led government, we are committed to the improvement of the lives of South Africans and Africa in whole and in its diaspora. Honorable Deputy Minister of Education, Honorable Suchi, called for us that we are in the province, our state is a unitary state and not a federal state. So he called for all of us to hold our hands so that we take our children through this process of education. In South Africa, we don't have a federal state, it's like Western Cape is being put as one of the federal states. It's true that it's good that you reminded them that we are unitary and not federal. And then he asked us that we all have to come up and improve the foundation on which our learners in the level 1, 2, and 3 are going to be taught on a good foundation. We all know that if you build a house on a foundation that is not good, everything is going to collapse. This year, we mark the 60th year of the Freedom Charter, which is the founding document of the African National Government, with its principles and policies. It is clear that Minister and your Department of Higher Education and Training, we are going to come up with a plan that is going to take us further as far as higher education is concerned, and we are all happy for that. If I come to Honorable Groenewald, there is no point where we will fear to talk about the African National Congress as our organization or as the government. DA, you speak like it is DA, when you speak, as Honorable Groenewald was saying, it was like you are speaking in Canaan. You are somewhere in a glorified world, where if either your dream come true of being in power one day, it's like you will not meet the challenges that ANC is facing today. This is reality. Whether the DA or whatever comes into power, you will all go through the challenges that the African National Congress is going through. That is reality. Honorable Kaula, protesting is not a
Order,
sin.
honorable members.
Protesting is not a sin or a misconduct. It is a constitutional provision. Protesters, if done legally, are actually a pressure group assisting government to evaluate its service delivery for a better life. Do not forget, we are a people's reading state, which is what our freedom stands for. Honorable Julius, stop lamenting, and lamenting. Both ministers are aware of those cries and laments of yours, and you have heard from what they said that they are attending to them. If you keep on lamenting, I think we will come with a green handkerchief from the ANC and wipe your tears. Please wait for us. Honorable Barwa, no waste of resources can be done if ever we celebrate the results and support our children. Our children need intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. Nobody else will give them this motivation except ourselves. One can actually read from what you have just said that you are no one person who does not participate in the learning and education of your children. And I think that is very big idea. Stand up and attend. There is one, stand up and give your children an extrinsic motivation. Can I have water, please? And you will see what is going to happen. I want to say, education is a process. Education is a process whereby education is a process whereby a human being becomes molded. Yes. It actually molds a person physically, psychologically, and otherwise. And with education, one becomes much matured in how you hold yourself, what you say from your mouth. So there are people who find themselves in this highest institution of lawmaking, who will find that when they speak, it's like they have never gone through the process of education. We normally say education can be more formal and can be non-formal. So I'm urging the people, the honorable members, that respect is end. You don't have to go the other way and speak as if you are not in a high respected institution. The children are looking at you at home, and whatever you do, whatever you say, you must please respect yourself, because we think everybody of us being here, we have gone through the process of education, and we are all molded, and we are all matured, even when we speak. And once more, I want to repeat, respect is end. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member Take. Honorable Minister.
Honorable Chairperson, let me at the outset thank the Honorable Minister for her incredible leadership in the sector of the Department of Basic Education. She's not here because of very compelling and urgent business that she had to attend to, and she had every intention of being here. Let me also thank my colleague, the Minister of Higher Education and Training, as well as my Deputy Minister, Ms. Manana. the Acting Director General and his team of committed women and men for supporting the department in its endeavors, the chairperson of the Select Committee and the members of the Select Committee for doing so. You know, they say bluster is when you make loud and aggressive noise with little value. But Mark Twain has said, you know, kindness is a language which the deaf can hear and the blind can see. And I think I should be kind to the Honorable Vauda. I was afraid that he was not going to return after having said what he said. And Mark Twain also said something which he should listen to very attentively. He said, get your facts first, then you can distort them. So because you've distorted them without the facts, let me provide it to you that the ruling party says the triple challenges that we face and the basis of our radical economic transformation is the eradication of poverty, unemployment, and inequality. That is the basis of the policy and the action plans of the department, of not only the Department of Basic Education, but of government itself. Now, if it means that we were not concerned about poverty, then you should ask, why is it that 8 out of 10 children go to a no-fee school, and from the 20% that go to a fee-paying school, those that cannot afford it are exempted? If we did not care about poverty, why is it that we feed more than 9.7 million children every day? If we were not concerned about poverty, why is it that more than 54 million books are distributed annually to every child, white or black, poor or affluent? If we were not concerned about poverty, why is it that we are building a school, state-of-the-art school per week for conducive learning in all parts of the country, Western Cape included, where 13 have already been delivered and another 12 are under construction? If we were not concerned about poverty, why is it that between 1996 and 2015, we have basically increased the number of schools without, we've reduced the number of schools without electricity, water, and sanitation from 15,000 to less than 1,000. If we were not concerned about, if we were not concerned about poverty and the availability of resources, why is it that a grade R child, and just remember, some 8 years ago, there were only 100,000, there are more than 870,000 children out there, black and white, poor or rich, receives 8 books free of charge delivered to the school. If we were not concerned about poverty, why is it that we are going to be contributing at least 1,000 libraries a year? Now these are the facts. Please do not distort the facts and under the guise of bluster, try to deceive and shift the attention of our community. I've always said that we do things on a big scale and you find a small gap and you try to use it opportunistically in order to distract and distort. Please do not do so. I thank the Honorable Groenewald for his comments and certainly to say to him, yes, we agree about early childhood development. The household survey has indicated that 92% of children in this country have had at least 1 year of preschool learning. That did not occur before democracy. That did not occur more than 20 years ago. It is now a reality. Every child, black or white, rural or urban, has that. The realities are also that in terms of reading, a strategy was adopted. Your MEC will tell you she's part of the national strategy. That's 3 years ago. Now to repeat what the Honorable Lovemore said in the National Assembly, and I told her, please do not come with obsolete reports where there's already an action plan and pretend that you are coming with something new when indeed there is action that is taking place adopted by your very own province. And it's important that you do so. The reality is this, that because you cannot find a reason to challenge the department who, against all odds, it's doing its level best, and I'm not suggesting that we've reached optimal performance. I'm indicating to you that the challenges are enormous, but we're doing our very, very best to make a difference in the lives of our people. Why is it that in Libode, the poorest district in the Eastern Cape, more than 42 state-of-the-art schools have been built? Is it because we're not concerned about the poor? Is it because we do not want to deliver? Those are questions that you've got to ask quite honestly. Was that the reality? And the Honorable Julius, please understand that it takes more than a generation to change things. It takes more than a generation to take. When I was in standard 6, the old days, we were class of 32. One out of 36 passed matric. The rest of them had failed. But in the next generation, the thing turned around. And I'm saying to you, given the reality that 21 years ago, we had less than 50% of our educators who qualified, and we have more than 98%. It's again bluster by the EFF. What more can they do substantively? And that's important. It's all about relativity. And I think the recognition must be, they've done nothing and they will do nothing. It's quite easy to be opportunistic. You know, Einstein is known for the theory of relativity, and he says, when you are courting a nice girl, an hour seems like a second. When you sit on red hot cinders, a second seems like an hour. And if you were in the position of governance, I can assure you that you would be scratching your head wanting to know why you cannot do something differently. Now, we cannot solve problems, and Einstein said this, and I want the Honorable MEC to listen to this very carefully. We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we use to create them. The same thinking of the past was to divide our nation, to make them understand that we have separate identities as white, as colored, as Indian and African. The way we solve problems today is to infuse in our children an understanding that we are a non-racial, non-sexist society. It is to make them understand that indeed, if we do not embrace our constitutional values, there will be violence against foreigners, there will be violence against other race groups. And indeed, we do not want that to occur. And she has not, in fact, she has not given you the facts. The facts are that the minister has appointed a committee, and she knows it, deliberately and consciously withholding these facts. She has appointed a commission to investigate how history should be taught for grades 10, 11, and 12. Should it be part of life orientation? Should it be an independent subject?
Okay.
And what should its content
Honorable
be?
Minister,
that is the reality.
Honorable Minister,
now, to
Sotli,
selectively
please
withhold
take
information.
take your seat, Honorable Minister. Honorable Mitileni.
I see it's like
Honorable Mitileni, you need to rise up on a point of order or on a point of privilege.
Please ask
If
the
you don't
minister
have,
to take it easy.
Honorable, can you listen to me?
Let him take
Order,
it easy.
order, Honorable
He seems to be
Mitileni.
stressed now.
Take your seat.
Thank you.
Thank you. Continue, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. When it gets hot, it's like sitting on cinders, you know, when you get it and you don't have a response to it. That's what I'm saying. That's the theory of relativity that the Honorable Member must become aware of. With regard to HIV and AIDS, and I'm so happy that this has been raised, it's about HIV and AIDS, it's about sexually transmitted infections, and it's about TB. South Africa is the only country in the world that has a sector plan from the Department of Education in relation to this. What we can share with you, that reproductive and sexual knowledge is critical and necessary, and we've already developed for grades 9 to 12 the important resources, because we have to make our children aware through education that it's important to take preventative steps to defer and postpone the sexual debut, and that if indeed that you are compelled to engage in sexual activity, you should condomize. But this knowledge must be shared. It's not about distributing condoms, it's about prevention, it's about deferral of sexual activity, and that's very critical and necessary. And there's a process of 2 years of consultation. It's aligned with the National Strategic Plan.
Your
and
time
indeed,
has expired.
I
Honorable
thank you
Minister.
very much, Honorable Chairperson, and thank you to the Honorable Members for the kind attention.
Thank you. I shall now call on the Honorable Minister Nzimande.
Honorable Chair, thank you very much. I must just say in this House that it's very important, by the way, that we make this clarion call. The Human Resources Development Council of South Africa, which is led by the Deputy President and administered by our department, is working very closely with provinces to try and move them also to establish their own Human Resources Development Councils. And we have already established 6 such councils.
Order. Take your seat, Honorable Minister. Honorable Mitileni.
May you please ask the minister to stand
Honorable,
up?
Honorable Mitileni. Honorable Mitileni. Why are you
ask
rising?
the minister to stand up.
Take your seat, Honorable Mitileni.
Black man, you are on your own. The provinces of KwaZulu-Natal, Western Cape, Eastern Cape, Free State, Limpopo, and the Northern Cape that have established
Order,
these-
Honorable Minister.
these
Honorable
councils.
Minister. Order, Honorable Members. Let's allow the Minister to say whatever he wants to say.
Honorable Chair, thank you very much to all the members and the parties who supported these two budget votes. Thanks especially to the African National Congress for always providing leadership. Honorable Zwane, I agree entirely with you that we do not only need more females in universities as students, we do need them as vice chancellors and as academics. That is why one of the programs we've recently launched is called Staffing South African Universities Framework, which is aimed at promoting black and women PhDs to enter academia and to rise within academia. So we entirely agree with you. Now, the opposition, I can only reply to them really through what William Beveridge said, an Englishman. Scratch a pessimist, I quote, scratch a pessimist, and you find often a defender of privilege, unquote, including a defender of 16 million rands in unpaid taxes. Now, Honorable Kaula, we take your point. We only taken over the payment of TVET colleges 1st of April this year. If honorable members identify problems that we may not be aware of, please raise them with us. We would appreciate that. But Babu Kaula, sisayobeke siyixoxe le ndaba yemfundo yenkatha lena kwaZulu Natal. Khona lento kwakuthiwa ubuntu buthi. Ngake ngabhala ngayo kodwa ngibhala ngegama lami elingekho ngoba ngangisaba ukuthi ngizongishaya ngihlala lapha eMlasi. Ngayi-analyze ngu-praise limdluli. Kuthi nanifundisa ngenkatha esikoleni nibe nithi nifundisa ngobuntu. Also, we need to say that Honorable Julius, honestly, you can be, Usakon, you can be in opposition, but you must acknowledge progress. You cannot go to any part of the country, or any school or any university, and say that there's been no progress since 1994. They'll simply laugh at you. The beneficiaries of NSFAS will laugh at you, will think that you're coming from Mars or something like that. It's you who actually said that. So it's okay to oppose, but not to. To the Honorable MEC of the Western Cape, I'm really challenging you to give me your sources of information that universities are spending less on teacher education. Just one example, for instance, we've increased significantly Funza Lushaga, as well as putting more resources into increasing teacher education in our context. And also, you know, now I understand, by the way, why the DA has got problems, Honorable Huneveld, with the history. And it's urgent, Honorable Surti, that we move with speed. They are scared of the history of South Africa and the role that many of them played in the past in the oppression of the overwhelming majority of the people of this country. We will tell that history, and we must tell the truth.
Order, Honorable Minister, please take your seat. The Honorable Member Julius, why are you on a feet?
Point of order, Chairperson.
What is the point of order?
Can the Minister please tell me where I played a part in apartheid, because I debated.
Okay,
now.
that is not a point of order, it's a point of debate. Take your seat. Conclude, Honorable Minister. Conclude.
The party that you are part of today was complicit in the national oppression of our people. Whether you called it the PFP before, it was complicit in the national oppression. The DA, that is why you will never become government of this country.
Order, Honorable Minister, please take your seat. Honorable Mitilen, why are you rising?
House Chair, I'm surprised. No, ministers look very angry.
Why are you rising?
They look very angry. Take it easy,
Honorable Mitilene, please take your seat.
ask
Take your seat.
Honorable
Order, Honorable
Mande to
Mitile.
take it easy.
Order, Honorable Mitile.
Why are they angry?
Honorable Mitile,
Let
take
them
your
take
seat.
it easy.
Take it easy, Honorable Mitile, and follow the orders of this House. Please, take your seat. Honorable Member Van Lingen.
Honorable Member, the Minister's time is up.
Oh no, you are out of order, Honorable Member. No, you are out of order. Conclude, Honorable Minister.
Black man, you're on your own.
Order, Honorable Mitile. We cannot continue like this. Honorable Mitile. Honorable Mitile. Honorable Mitile, take your seat. Take your seat, Honorable Mitile. Conclude, Honorable Minister.
In conclusion, Honorable MSC of the Western Cape, we have got it wrong regarding career development services. Our scope is lifelong advice. Don't confuse that with Apply Now campaign. We're doing very well on this front. Thank you very much for the opportunity to address this office.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Order, Honorable Members. Order, Honorable Members. Honorable Mitileni, order. That concludes the debate and the business of the day, and the honorable members are requested to remain standing while the procession is leaving the House. This House is adjourned.